Welcome everyone. I am Councillor Kimberly Barrett, Cabinet Member for Climate Change and the Environment. Just a few housekeeping rules for today. If the continuous fire alarm sounds, please do evacuate the room and the public gallery by the stairwells. Do not attempt to use the lifts and please assemble near Queen Victoria's statue in the Guildhall Square. To comply with the Guildhall Trust Fire Marshal regulations, anyone who signed in at the reception today should sign out when leaving the building after the meeting today. As everyone knows already, everyone speaking via a microphone will be recorded and broadcast on the website, including anyone making deputations, which we have none of today. Members of the press and public are permitted to record the meeting on the understanding that it neither disrupts the meeting nor records those stating explicitly that they do not wish to be recorded. Please can everyone use the microphones and remember to switch them off when they're finished in order for the camera to move to the person speaking. I'm assuming we've all read the reports, so please feel free to just highlight any developments that have occurred since the publication. So I will start and go with introductions. So I'll start with Charlotte, if that's all right.
Councillor Charlotte Gerardo, Central Southsea.
Councillor Russell Simpson, Hillsey.
James Hill, Director of Housing, Neighbourhood and Building Services.
Colette Hill, Assistant Director of Neighbourhoods.
Jane Dodino, Local Democracy Officer.
Meredith Hughes, Assistant Director for Buildings.
Christina Downey, Climate Change Officer.
Perfect, thank you everybody. And just to check, Jane, are there any apologies for absence today?
None, Chair.
Thank you. And any declarations of interest from anybody today at all? No, all good. Well, that's the case. We'll move swiftly on then to the first item, which is the Changing Places toilet scheme.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. The report in front of you today is an information-only report, and it's requested by Councillor Barrett for this portfolio. The purpose of the report is to update members on the Changing Places toilet scheme in Portsmouth, and the information included will give a background to the actual scheme, the update on the progress of the Phase 1 works where we've been awarded grant funding, and an update on the Phase 2 application, which was in process when the report was being written. So, as a bit of background to the scheme, the government made agreement with building regulations that from March 2020, any new build or major refurbishments of public buildings with a capacity of over 300 people would require a change in places toilet to be installed within the facility. At the same time, they made available £30 million as a grant fund to help Changing Places toilets to be incorporated in some existing and older public buildings. This took place during the pandemic, and it wasn't until a year later when the Changing Places toilet grants opened, and Portsmouth City Council made a bid in September 2021 for 3 sites in Portsmouth to provide a facility at the D-Day Story Museum car park toilets, in the Norwich Library, and also Fratton Community Centre. We were successful in the application, and in March 2022, DLUC awarded Portsmouth just under £160,000 as a grant award to undertake Changing Places toilet work within Portsmouth. When that money was awarded, then we started the planning then to install across the 3 schemes in Portsmouth. So the first project was in the D-Day Museum car park. Work started on site in October of last year and were completed on site just before Christmas. We opened to the public on the 22nd of February, and the Changing Places facility is registered on the Changing Places website, and it's been used, and we've had really positive feedback from end users and stakeholders in that already. The second project was recently completed at the Norwich Central Library. This project started just after Christmas and finished last Friday, 10th of March. We're in the process now of registering and getting the facility signed off by the change in places regime, and that will be added to the directory hopefully by the end of March, and will be available then for members of the public to use and obviously benefit from the facility. The third project within the scheme is at Fratton Community Centre, and the works are planned to be undertaken in the summer of 2023. We're working closely with the centre manager, Julie Crook, to make sure that we coordinate with her in terms of the requirements of the centre. And that's with our team of building surveyors within building surveyors who are working up the scheme, and they'll be sending that to tender shortly, and then we can work that through with the centre in terms of the installation. During last summer, the Change in Places Fund announced that there would be a second round of applications with a further £6.5 million of work being allocated for new facilities. Portsmouth City Council again bid for funding, and we were successful, and we found out on the 4th of February that we'll be receiving £180,000 worth of grant funding to provide facilities at the new pavilion at King George V, at Exploria with the demise of the pyramids, and also in the proposed new leisure facility at Bransbury Park. We're in discussions with DLUC at the moment in terms of the phasing of the work, but it's anticipated that it will be undertaken during the winter of 23-24, with all facilities hopefully being complete by the end of March 2024. And that's it. Thank you, Councillor Barrett.
Thank you very much for the report. I know I've never done everyone knows I hate taking photos for anything at all, but I've never done a weirder photo shoot at a public toilet before. But it was really interesting to see all the facilities that were put in, and I've had so much feedback already to say that they are being well used, and it's great to have one down the seafront that anyone can access as well. So thank you very much for that. Councillor Simpson.
I was actually, when I saw the agenda, I was actually really happy to see that this was on it. You might, as you say, it might seem weird, not only because we lack a lot of public toilets, I find now in Portsmouth in general, but also for me personally, someone that suffers with inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's disease, we don't see enough visible toilets anymore that are accessible. So seeing this and seeing that there's a care and petitioning and making sure that people that have hidden disabilities will have that access. So this was a bit personal to me, and I thought I'm really glad, because I couldn't name you 5 public toilets in Portsmouth anymore, to be honest. They keep disappearing. All I was going to say was it'd be really nice if, even though I know they're not just for disabled, but not all disabilities are visible stickers on every single one, because the more education we can do for that, for people that suffer with hidden disabilities, the better, because it's a real struggle. So yeah, thank you very much for chasing this and getting funding.
No, thank you, Councillor Simpson. I know it's quite close to my heart, because my son suffers from Crohn's as well, so know the problems that sufferers face. One of the things I would say is that all the facilities we've got are operated by radar keys, and radar keys are available through the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, Irritable Bowel Mobility Scheme, etc. So the access to them is through that format, but it'd be something that we take on in terms of added signage then to the facilities to make sure that we can advertise that, to make sure that all people can use them as well.
Thank you, Chair. I also really welcome the report and all the work the Council's doing to put the Changing Places toilets in. They're really, really critically important for people with all different kinds of disabilities, and yeah, it's very important to make our city more accessible, so thank you to everybody who's been working on it. I did just have a couple of questions. I wondered how we fare to other cities of a similar size, like how many toilets on Changing Places toilets they have on average per city. And because it said here about funding was given in part based on need, and I just wondered if that was because we just don't have very many and that's what the need is about, but what need it means or like what that's about. And yeah, just if you have any other ideas for other future locations.
Okay, I might need some help from Colette on this one. But in terms of, we were identified as being in the second quarter, and that was because of the lack of facilities within the city. There's, I think, from memory, there's one at the Hover terminal on the seafront. There's one in the Gun Wharf, and there's another one, I think, there's a church in Arundel Street, I think, which has got another facility. So we are certainly under double figures, and by us providing 6 new facilities in the city as part of this scheme, are certainly making it a big improvement. We try and make all of our facilities across the city as user-friendly and access for all as we can. But the changing places toilets are, another level above. From our own point of view, Portsmouth City Council, we installed a changing places facility in Southsea Library when that was refurbished, probably 10 years ago or so. But these are the first changing places standard facilities that we've installed across the city.
Everything Marez said is correct. We have added a number of toilets to our suite of toilets across the city, or our state of toilets, over the last few years. So we've added sites at Kingston Recreation Ground, at College Park. We've reopened toilets at Drayton Lane, Hilsey. We kept a toilet open at Eastney that was due for closure, and we also reopened White Hart Road, sorry. Getting confused there. And also all the toilets that we install now, so all those new facilities that we've provided, are all accessible and for everyone, so they're not male, female or anything like that, and they're all accessible toilets that Red's team put in. And as we upgrade them, we're looking at making, how can we make them more accessible for staff, and also for all users. And then on our website, we've got all the locations of the toilets and other toilets that are on the community toilet scheme. So, yeah, I think we've probably got about 20. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's about 20 across the city sites. So,
Quick question, if possible. Obviously, this is round 2 of funding that we've just got some money for. Do you think they will open up any more funding in the future?
The original grant, which was opened in 2021, was a total of 30 million, and the second round was really the money that hadn't been spent from the first round. So it's not new money; they've recycled some money that was left over. We haven't heard anything, but it's something that we keep a very close eye on if there's any opportunities to do that. To apply for any money, but of course that would be a retrofit, on an existing building. I think the other key thing that is now part of the building regulations, in any public building, a museum, a cinema, theatres, shops over a certain size where they've got capacity for more than 300 people, especially new builds, have to have these facilities. So hence the reason we're putting one in at King George V, Bransbury, etc. So any large schemes like that, by law now, will have to have a facility like that, which is certainly a positive move.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And just to add as well, with the report, I noticed obviously round 2 of funding, we looked at sites that had no facilities available there, so I am pleased to see that we are dotting them all across the city, because there's need all across the city, not just in certain areas as well. And I think I'll always be keen to see if we can do more, whether we could get more funding or more cash towards it. But the more that we can install across the city, the better, because as you've mentioned from personal experience, we have people with visible disabilities, people who have disabilities that aren't visible. I have family members in the same sort of situation as you are. So to make sure that everyone has a place to go, then that's great. So thank you very much. Colleagues, I don't know if you have any questions at all. No, perfect. Okay, thank you very much for that report. We will now move on to the next report, so I'll pass on to Colette. Thank you.
hello. I'm just going to present this report on. Sorry. On the graffiti work that the Clean City team's been doing in relation to private buildings and land. So the council found £100,000 was identified to contribute towards tackling graffiti across the city on private buildings and non-PCC assets. We already have a good process in place for removing graffiti on council assets. And the new process is led by the community warden team, who receive reports of graffiti across the city. They undertake the investigations and they'll contact landowners to understand what the plans are for the site. Where we're able to remove the graffiti, we need permission from the landowner, and once we've got that, our Green and Clean team have got a specialist cleaning team who go out, and sometimes we can clean it with our equipment, sometimes we'll paint over it, but we'll remove the graffiti for the landowner. We have got some challenges about getting permission sometimes, so people don't always respond to our inquiries, and we can't remove graffiti if we don't have permission. In addition to Green and Clean undertaking these works, community wardens are also out all of the time, and they have access to some limited equipment where they can quickly remove graffiti on things like utility cupboards and things like that. So they've got some special wipes and cans that they can spray over. We do appreciate graffiti is a blight on the city, and our CCTV team also are helping us with investigations, as Kimberly knows, and we have got a recent example where an individual was fined for graffiti in the car park. Our head of community safety spotted it in the morning, and then we were able to track it all on the cameras, and they did actually pay the £300 fixed penalty notice that we gave them. And we've got a number of other lines of inquiry. I suppose there's quite a few tags that we will have all seen across the city, and identifying who's doing that is quite challenging. Some of the tags, you'll see them in the city, but you'll also see them on the M27, in Southampton, wherever you go around Hampshire, the same tag is appearing. We have engaged with the police as well about what we can do about graffiti, and they have stopped a number of people where CCTV have alerted them to activity in the city, particularly in the south of the city, in the early hours of the morning, and they've confiscated cans and taken details and things like that. So we'll continue to do this. There's still some of the funding is still available. We've spent about £25,000 of it, and we'll continue to do that work and try and resolve the issues as they occur. That's it.
Thank you. I'm always pleased to see the amount of roads or areas increasing as I go about. And just to clarify, because I'm looking at this and there's only a handful of them which have been cleaned maybe twice. Do you find that it seems to be that once it's cleared off, most of the time that's it, or do you find it's repeating?
So in the majority of cases, once we've cleaned it, we haven't had recurrences, but there are a couple of areas where we've identified 2 or 3 repeats. And in those cases, that's where we're trying to see whether we can put redeployable cameras in. People are sending us their Ring doorbell footage, which we're always grateful for, and other, footage of things that they've filmed out of their windows. So it's quite often they're hooded. Everyone wears masks these days, so it's quite difficult to identify people. I think we identified someone at the Stampshaw Community Centre as well, so we're working constantly on that. But I think it's the majority. Once it's gone, it's gone. But there are a few hotspots where we're monitoring and using our ways to try and catch somebody, but that's the most important thing, is that we stop people doing it rather than just keep painting over it or clearing it.
Perfect, thank you. Because I know there's been one tagger, and I won't give that person any credit at all here, but has been doing a lot of stuff in Milton and across Central Southsea, which I know a lot of residents have complained to me, to yourself probably, Councillor Gerarda, to Councillor Horton and Councillor Fielding as well. So it's very frustrating, but equally a lot of people have sent in some images, and so I know that we're trying to look into lines of inquiry to try and catch them. So fingers crossed. But if any members of the public are listening and they've got any footage, we're always happy to receive it and liaise with the police on that. So please don't hesitate to contact us. We'll pass on to Councillor Gerarda.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to thank Colette and her team for everything that they do, because they're super, super responsive and very quickly resolve issues. And even with those niggly graffiti taggers that, won't be named, but that we know about in certain areas, putting them back there. But yeah, just massive thank you for everything your team does. I did just have a question about the CCTV, like when a decision is made about how, like when it's going to be deployed and how long it stays within a particular location.
So with the deployable cameras, we'll look at all the demands that we're getting and we'll prioritise them depending on the impact that they're having on local residents. When the cameras are up, they can stay up for as long as there are problems there, really. And then what might happen, as has happened recently, is that we've had a growing demand in a particular area. So CCTV has resolved an ASB area over here, for example, and we've taken the camera away because we're not getting anything off it. And whilst we're picking up images and the offences are still occurring, it would stay up, particularly with graffiti, because it's quite difficult to, we need to build up a picture of patterns and descriptions and clothing and things like that. So it would stay up for as long as there was a problem. But because it's deployable and redeployable, we'll want to move it around the city as things ebb and flow across as you know they do. So as long as it's needed, I think is the case.
Yes, just to follow up really thank you for the reports. And you are very swift actually, with not just with graffiti, but with anything that we report, which is really, 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 really good. Interestingly enough, we've got some cameras around the Hillsey Lines because we had so much graffiti around there that they decided to put the cameras there permanently. However, on the other side of that coin, by the Lido recently, we had a whole load of new art by lots of artists around Portsmouth, and within 1 week it was tagged. However, I've been talking to a lot of the team from Sustrans and also My Dog Size. I don't know if that was the name you were trying to avoid before, but I don't think it is. I hope not. Yeah, okay. So, good. Because we've been thinking outside the box. We've also been thinking about creating, this is an idea that we got in Hillsey about creating canvas boards for them to graffiti, and then every so often it'd be maintained by the community, they paint over it and they go again, because we do know that it's quite territorial. They're tagging because they feel that it belongs to them. And when you think about the age that, they're definitely not 18, and then how are they buying it, because you can't buy it unless you're 18. So one must assume they are borrowing it. And there's quite a lot of method to it. I don't, sometimes obviously it's just vandalism, but I think sometimes there is this element of street art which is trying to come through. That's not to say, I know, when there's very inappropriate things being, but I do think looking outside the box and maybe not necessarily accommodating it, but understanding that, since the 80s, if not before, we've had this culture of graffiti art coming through, and maybe, that might also save costs as well if we allow something to be a canvas for them to use. I know it's a little bit not opposite to this report, but I just thought I'd mention it.
Yeah, I know the sort of street art that My Dog Size will do, sanctioned and with permission, is quite different to the type of work we're trying to address. And usually, historically, it's always been that where there is an artwork like that, that won't get graffiti. But I know that the Hillsey site has suffered a couple of times. And I think that certainly some of the people we've caught and the police have caught have been adults. So, and there's quite a lot of political graffitiing going on as well. So that usually is by adults. So I'm sure younger people are doing these things, but it's not all young people. There's quite a lot of older people doing it as well. But we can, if there's a wall that you can identify, I'm sure that's sounds like the sort of thing that might help. But I think it's just the opportunity of, as they walk past something, if you drive along sometimes they'll have tagged everything down a long road. But yeah, any suggestions of how we can reduce it and stop it happening in the first place, really welcome.
I just wanted to add as well that Colette and Roy and the team, they've been really good, especially with the sort of offensive graffiti that has gone up. You guys have been really quick to get that gone, because I have seen some awful stuff that's gone up when I've gone past on the bus, and then I've come back a couple of hours later for a meeting and it's gone. So credit to the team for doing that. I think what you said, Councillor Simpson, is very right. I have people contacting me all the time about graffiti, and some have said, what do you consider what's art and what's not art? And I said, well, you know, there is a fine difference between tagging and between doing these great bits of work down. It's very unofficial, but I often walk down past Fratton Park, down the alleyway there, and there's always people who have permission to do it down there, doing different bits and bobs, which some of the work is fantastic. And I had the privilege of watching FARC do some work as well. We've got some really great artists in this city who do some really great bits of work, especially up at Hillsey, where they were doing some work up there recently. So it's just making sure that we get rid of the stuff that isn't wanted, but keep some of these amazing pieces of work and support these artists where possible. So I just wanted to put that out there, that there is definitely a fine line between what we're getting rid of as the City Council and what, you know, we want to keep. So yeah, thank you very much, and please do pass on my thanks to Roy and the team as well, because they've been working really hard. They get this done really quickly, and as you've mentioned as well, permission can, although you would have thought if someone sprayed something that the landowner or the property owner would want to get rid of it pretty quickly, sometimes they don't. So, or sometimes they don't even respond. I know along Fratton Bridge, that's obviously owned by Network Rail. You know, we have reached out to them, I believe, before, haven't we? And nothing's really come from it. So, you know, we'll always do what we can do. We'll always try and gain permission to get rid of some of this stuff where possible. And it would be great to work with some of the bigger landowners and property holders who perhaps haven't got back in contact with us, because we are willing to do the work. We know that it's not always the nicest thing to see when you're coming into the city. So we're trying to work on making that a lot better for people. So, yeah. Any other further questions or comments still? No? Brilliant. Okay. Thank you very much for that, Colette. We'll move straight on to our last item then, which is with Christina. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barrett. Yes, the final information report of today for this portfolio is just to provide some information on a recent successful funding application. I think the report's probably quite self-explanatory in that the funding, £75,000, which has been awarded to Portsmouth City Council as the lead applicant on this, is to start on the 1st of April, so not long, and then it's a 3-month study to understand Portsmouth-wide systemic barriers and work up solutions to decarbonising the big systems, the transport systems, the heat, the power and the product manufacture or usage systems, which we don't have a lot of in Portsmouth. And we'll use that time to do lots of targeted engagement and workshopping with individuals or businesses or those sort of larger anchor institutes in Portsmouth. Obviously, I'd like to highlight we have the new forums that we can do this in really easily now with the Green Partnership Charter and the Large Estates Forum as well here, as well as the civic partnership we hold with the university. So I can actually add a little bit more information as I'm fresh back from a cohort event that Innovate put on for us in Manchester this week. And I can tell you that there were 90 applications going in, and we were one of 30 to be successful. I was told that we were one of the highest scoring applicants. And then, so this is phase 1 of this study, or this project, I suppose, that they're funding. And then at the end of this, after the 3-month project, we get to put in basically our solutions forward into phase 2. That'll be in July. And then we'll find out if we're successful, I think, in October of this year. And then at that point, we'll either be one of 5 or 6, or possibly more, depending what they say yes to. But there's up to £5 million there of funding. Or if we don't win that, I've been told that we'll either get 5 million or 150,000, which is a new thing. So that's it. Everyone's very excited, and we're very much looking forward to starting this. And yeah, looking forward to having those conversations and holding those forums that perhaps we always haven't had the opportunity to host and organise before. So, yeah. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Christina. I'm really pleased about this, especially because of the decarbonising of, you know, where we can look at, such as transport and retrofitting and things like that. And I'm really pleased. We've been very lucky in this sort of portfolio sort of area that across the various departments, we've been very lucky with gaining funding so that we can look at all these bigger projects that we can do. Everyone knows it's quite difficult at the moment in regards to all the funding, trying to get that from central government or just in general for a council. So the fact that we've managed to obtain funding and grants to proceed forward with all these great projects to try and hit our net zero target. So thank you very much for that. And I've got all fingers, toes, everything crossed for the future. Anyway, to see if we can get anything towards that £5 million funding. You've put it in the report here as well, but I just wanted to make sure that I said thank you to the people who wrote letters of support as well so that we could get this funding. So that was, I believe it was the Portsmouth Hospitals University Trust, Gunwharf, and I think it was the University of Portsmouth, wasn't it? So thank you very much to them for supporting us with this. Obviously, they're some of the bigger employers of in the city, so all part of our green partnership, the charter that we're doing. So it just shows that we are working together and supporting each other with the projects going forward. So I think it's very exciting, and you know, I can't wait to start this work anyway. So thank you. Councillor Gerarda, did you have any questions at all? Or?
Thank you, Chair. Just, yeah, sounds like a really great project, and yeah, congratulations and good luck with the next stage.
I just want to say ditto. I mean, it's just really, because, yeah, so just good, yeah, really good.
There you go, good job. Well, if that's the case, that is the end of this meeting today. Before we pop off, obviously this is the last meeting that we have for this municipal year. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. So thank you to the officers. You've worked really hard this year. Obviously with all the reports coming forward, we can see all the hard work that you're doing. So thank you very much. And of course, to my two counterparts, thank you very much. You've been here all the time. You've challenged me where needed, so thank you. You've also been really lovely as well. I'm very biased. I think this is the best portfolio to have. I think it's the most interesting as well. But it's also, I found it's been the best people to work with as well. So thank you very much. And we'll see you in a couple of months anyway. So thank you.